The Nexus 6P was announced late last September, that is September 2015. Since its arrival, it's been my daily driver when I'm not testing out other phones. Let's just say I'm a sucker for a good camera and stock Android. That is until the OnePlus 3 made its debut about 2 months ago, June 2016. The fact of the matter is, I've been going back and forth with both of these phones as my daily. These are currently my 2 favorite phones on the market. The 32GB version of the Nexus 6P originally priced out at $499. The OnePlus 3, on the other hand, prices out at $399. 64 gigs of internal storage, shipped to your door, no tax. Going back to the Nexus 6P, the 64GB version priced out at $549, while the 128GB version priced out at $649. But now that the new Nexus is around the corner, and by corner I mean another month or 2, the current Nexus flagship is beginning to see price cuts, price drops, whatever you want to call it. Today you can get a 64GB version of the 6P for $399. That's $150 off its original price. Pricing it evenly, sort of, with the OnePlus 3. I say sort of because you're still gonna fork out about $40 in tax for the 6P, at least in Chicago where I'm from you will. My question is, at its $399 price tag, is the 6P still worth it, or is the OnePlus 3 the better buy? Cue the title screen. Both the Nexus 6P and the OnePlus 3 have simple, minimal designs and excellent build quality. Cue the shot where you put the phone in between 2 branches of a tree, pan up, and say nice things about it. The OnePlus 3 is an excellent phone, but so is the Nexus 6P. From its all-metal body and tactile buttons, you can feel the premium in your hand. I'm talking about both phones here. My Nexus 6P has taken a beating over the months I've used it. It's never seen a case and it's taken a few drops, but it doesn't quit. Scuffs, dings, dents, and all. For people who have ever questioned its durability or worry that it'll bend in the pocket, don't. The phone is strong, and unless you force its hand, I wouldn't worry about it. The OnePlus 3 has only been in my bullpen for a little under 2 months, but has held up well, a solid premium feeling phone. When compared to the 6P, its dimensions overall are smaller, except for its thickness, which is about the same. The OnePlus 3, when compared to the Nexus 6P, is easier to use one-handedly. Still not full one-handedly, but easier than the 6P. And most of that is due to its screen size, sporting a 5.5-inch screen when compared to the 6P's 5.7-inch. Now, the 2 things I prefer on the OnePlus 3 over the 6P is 1, the bottom placement of the headphone jack, and 2, the alert slider, so you can throw the phone into silent mode, priority, or all notifications mode by the flick of a switch. No need to unlock your phone and dig into the software to change this. But the thing I prefer on the 6P over the OnePlus 3 is its speaker placement. The Nexus 6P sports 2 front-facing stereo speakers, one up here, one down here. So the sound is directed at you, as it should be. The OnePlus 3 has 1 bottom-facing speaker here. Womp womp. Both the Nexus 6P and the OnePlus 3 run AMOLED displays. Again, the 6P houses a 5.7-inch display while the OnePlus 3 uses a 5.5-inch one. The 6P has a higher resolution at 1440p while the OnePlus 3 runs at 1080p. For me personally, I can't tell a difference. If you're a stats junkie and need the best resolution, then you might want to skip on the OnePlus 3. But to the untrained eye, I'm sure 9 out of 10 people aren't going to know which is 1080 and which is 1440. If you need more proof, take a gander at one of my previous videos where I pit the OnePlus 3 with the HTC 10, LG G5, and Samsung Galaxy S7. Overall, both phones offer great displays, viewing angles, and a pleasant experience. The only gripe here is with the 6P. Time and time again I've addressed this, but if you're new to my channel and haven't heard me talk about it before, the 6P suffers in bright sunlight. And if you're caught outside in this situation, you might have to find some shade to check out who's posting another clickbait link on your Facebook. As far as performance goes, the Nexus 6P uses a Snapdragon 810 version 2.1 processor and an Adreno 430 GPU combined with 3 gigs of RAM. This was the top of the line CPU, GPU, and RAM combination for its time in late 2015. The 2-month-old OnePlus 3 runs a Snapdragon 820 processor, an Adreno 530 GPU, and 6 gigs of RAM. double the amount of RAM on the 6P. From personal experience, I can tell you that both phones run with zero lag when using basic apps. And by basic apps, I mean texting, surfing the web, using social media, Instagram, Snapchat, etc, etc. And even though the 6P is running last generation's hardware, a lot of that is due to the 6P's stock bloat-free nature, something I always root for in a phone. As far as gaming goes, I'm not much of a gamer, but I'm pretty sure that the OnePlus 3 will load games faster and most likely outperform the 6P solely due to its hardware specs. As far as battery goes, the Nexus 6P carries a 3450 mAh battery, while the OnePlus 3 uses a 3000 mAh one. In initial testing on my 6P, I normally ran 4-ish hours of screen on time, around 4-ish hours. Since then, I've been on a developer preview of Android Nougat instead of Marshmallow, and my numbers have really tanked, getting around 3 hours of screen on time if I'm lucky. For example, right now I am showing 7% battery, right? When I dip into the settings here, and I took this off the phone this morning, my screen on time right now is only at 2 hours and 20 minutes. Adaptive brightness is on, the brightness slider setting is set at 50%. I would say this is about half LTE, half Wi-Fi, and this is running Developer Preview 5. Again, nothing intensive here, just the basic apps. I don't really know if the numbers are accountable because I'm running a beta version of Nougat, or if the battery's just depleted over time, which would be a little unfortunate because this phone's only about 10 months old. We'll see. I'll have to bring the phone back to Marshmallow and see if I can still get similar numbers from when I initially had the phone. My OnePlus 3 in initial testing got me around 4.5 to 5 hours of screen on time. Overall, I think it's averaged out to around 4 hours and 15 minutes to 4.5 hours. Now this was while I was running an earlier version of Oxygen. I've recently sideloaded 3.2.2, but don't have official numbers for that yet. I'd still say you'll get 4 hours of screen on time, if not more, but I've heard people say battery life hasn't gotten better since the update. But if that were the case, I'd like to think that OnePlus will be able to tweak that down the road if it's true.
The following is a picture quality test. Both phones were shot using its respective rear camera, both phones were shot using its native resolution, and both phones were shot using full auto mode. In this set of pictures, and many of the ones following forward, the Nexus 6P's color profile almost always leans on the darker and cooler side, while the OnePlus 3 is the opposite, a bit brighter and a bit warmer. Most pictures in this set carry quite color accurate photos. I'll only chime in when this doesn't apply. In this night shot, the 6P clearly wins out over the OnePlus 3. If you look at the Ferris wheel and the lit up sign, the Nexus 6P offers a clearer picture than the OnePlus. The OnePlus 3 overexposes here, giving the 6P the more appealing shot. The 6P tends to keep a lot of its pictures dark. Most of the time I don't mind, but the OnePlus 3 is the more accurate one here. The same goes for this set of pictures. In this last set, again, the OnePlus 3 gives off a more accurate color representation here. One of the reasons I've always liked the photo results on the 6P is because of its color accuracy. The OnePlus 3 maintains a similar profile, and as it goes head to head with the 6P, I've noticed that the 6P can sometimes underexpose, the OnePlus can sometimes overexpose, the 6P works better at night, and the OnePlus 3 seems to do a better job in well-lit indoor shots. But really, both are solid performing cameras when it comes to photos. You'll need to make the final call, as personal preference is what probably counts here. The following is a video quality test. Both phones were set on a tripod to exclude any interference by motion. The following is a video stabilization test. All phones were hooked up to one rig to ensure a controlled environment. It's no surprise the Nexus 6P lacks optical image stabilization and makes for subpar video when in motion. When still, video is really good. This also holds pretty true for the OnePlus 3. While the OnePlus 3 offers better video stabilization than the Nexus 6P, it's nothing to write home about. For anyone wondering, this was shot with Oxygen OS 3.2.2. It'll get the job done, but my Samsung Galaxy S7 is still my go-to when recording video while walking around.
Some other things that I'd like to differentiate between the Nexus 6P and the OnePlus 3 are the little tweaks that OnePlus has put onto their phone. For example, the OnePlus 3 has double tap to wake, the 6P does not. On the OnePlus 3, you can draw a circle to activate the camera, or you can draw a V to turn on the flashlight, and a V again to turn it off. Like the 6P, you can double tap the power button to activate the camera. But the one thing that's really gotten my attention, something that I've really gotten used to on the OnePlus 3, is how the Fingerprint Reader acts as a home button. For example, I have YouTube open, right? If I wanted to go to the home screen on the Nexus 6P, I'm gonna have to swipe up here to get my navigation icons and click home. It's not a big deal, but on the OnePlus 3, instead of having to do all that, I can just put my finger over here on the Fingerprint Reader, and that acts as a home button. Again, it might not seem like a big deal, but if you're doing that time and time again, multiple times a day, that comes in handy on the OnePlus 3. What's nice about the OnePlus 3 as well is that you have the option of having these on-screen navigation buttons. So you can turn them on here with the on-screen navigation bar, or you can just use the capacitive ones that are here instead. On top of that, you can also swap the buttons, these capacitive buttons here, so that the back button is on the right side, or that the multitasking recent screens button is on the left side instead. Swap it here, now this will be the back button. So it'll give people who are used to using a Samsung the option of having that. I think that's really nice. I think that's a really nice touch that OnePlus put on their phone. Alright, my 6P was dying, so I had to plug it in, but I want to talk about the Fingerprint Reader real quick too. The Fingerprint Reader on the Nexus 6P has always been pretty fast and accurate, especially when it first came out. It was probably one of the best on the market. And while the Fingerprint Reader is fast and accurate on the 6P, the OnePlus 3 has taken it to another level, and it is probably one of the fastest fingerprint readers I've ever used. Now I have another video of me doing this on the OnePlus 3, so sure, it's nothing new if you watch my other videos. But the Fingerprint Reader on the OnePlus 3 is definitely a lot faster than it is on the Nexus 6P. If there's one thing that the Nexus lineup has over any Android phone, it's its software. My Nexus 6P runs the newest version of Marshmallow, but to top that, it's also capable of running the latest and greatest version of Android today, 7.0, Nougat. Even though it's a beta version, it works pretty well. I've had a good number of videos in the past talking about it, and it's one of the main reasons the Nexus phone never leaves my side. If you don't care about the latest and greatest, that's fine, but the Nexus is also about offering a clean, bloat-free Android experience. And in many cases on other phones, added apps you don't want or need tend to clutter and cause lag, so you either have to uninstall them, some you can't even uninstall and you're forced to disable them instead. On top of that, you're left running with the manufacturer's forked version of Android, one that doesn't give you that clean experience. And when Android's due for a new update, like it will be in the next month or two, you might not see it for weeks or months or ever, because that same manufacturer has to take that new version of Android and make it coincide with its forked version. And a lot of times, whoever made that phone stops supporting that particular model because they're working on a new one. But I digress. The OnePlus 3 offers a very clean stock-like Android experience. That's what drew me to it in the first place. The only question is, when Nougat comes out, how soon will the OnePlus 3 follow suit? And what about next year, when Android O debuts? Will the OnePlus 3 still be around for that? But let's put all that aside for a moment and talk about the present. Let's talk about today. The truth is, the OnePlus 3 has now become my daily driver when I'm not testing other phones. Its hardware is up to date, its software is clean, its features are useful and not gimmicky, and its battery and camera are solid. This is a phone I would easily recommend for $400. The Nexus 6P is no slouch. There's a reason it's been my go-to phone for the last 10 months, but it's beginning to show its age. Like I said, the new Nexus is just around the corner, so is a 6P still worth the $400 bucks? Well, if a completely stock Android experience, front-facing stereo speakers, and making sure you have the latest version of Android before any other Android phone, then sure, it's totally worth it. On top of that, you can get the 64 gig version at a discounted price. But if you can wait for the new Nexus and see what that offers, you might want to hold off. Otherwise, the OnePlus 3 has a lot going for it today, although I'm pretty sure when the new Nexus comes out, that'll take over again as my daily.